Leicester City's 2015-16 season is one of the most iconic fairy tales in Premier League history. But what made it a fairy tale? After a decade-long absence, Leicester earned promotion back to the Premier League in the 2014-15 season. Yet their return looked like it was going to be short-lived, as by Christmas they were stuck at the bottom of the table, seemingly set to be yet another promoted side that couldn't survive in the Premier League. Even as late as game week 30, the Foxes were dead last with relegation appearing inevitable. But then came one of the most remarkable turnarounds in Premier League history. An astonishing run of 7 wins, 1 draw and just 1 loss in their final 9 games saw Leicester surge to 14th place, well clear of the drop zone, as if they'd never been in trouble at all. It was known as the Great Escape, and Leicester became one of the few clubs to avoid relegation after sitting bottom of the table on Christmas Day. At the time, Leicester's survival alone was considered a miracle. It was a fairy tale in its own right that they simply remained in the Premier League. But as we all know, that was not the fairy tale, and everyone remembers what came next. Leicester picked up right where they left off, starting off the 2015-16 season in champions form and never looking back. Powered by their world-class trio of Jamie Vardy, Riyad Mahrez, and N'Golo Kante, Leicester completed the ultimate underdog story. They shocked the football world by winning the Premier League and becoming just the 7th club to lift a trophy in the Premier League era, and cementing their legacy as the league's most iconic fairy tale. Yet I'm gonna ruin that fairy tale with the one team that could have stopped Leicester that season. The league was notoriously weak in the 15-16 season, with the majority of big clubs either having a down year or in the middle of a rebuild. However, there was one team that looked ready to take advantage of this. One team from North London could have and should have ended Leicester City's underdog story. A side known for their entertaining attacking football, led by 2 world-class attackers. A frugal club that spent years developing its youngsters and occasionally dipping into the market for a big-name signing, all building towards this very opportunity. And that team was... get off the screen. The Arsenal. As I'll get into later, Arsenal's lack of signings ultimately ruined what should have been Arsene Wenger's final great triumph. Instead, Arsenal narrowly finished second, a full 10 points behind Leicester. As their title window slammed shut, what followed was years of disappointment and decline, ending with Wenger's legendary tenure at Arsenal coming to a bitter end. Instead, I'll be going back to FIFA 16 to ruin Leicester City's fairy tale and save Arsene Wenger's legacy. I'll be correcting Arsenal's mistakes, making the signings they should have made, and going all out to win the Premier League title. To create a challenge, I've boosted Leicester City's stats to reflect how dominant they were in the 2015-16 season, making them the best team in the league, just like in real life. Out of 10 simulation tests, Leicester won the league every single time, averaging 89.8 points, so it's up to me to overcome this Leicester City team and bring the title to the Emirates. Also, this video will only focus on the Premier League, so no cups or European distractions. So let's get into it. It's the summer of 2015 and Arsene Wenger just informed the Arsenal board that he plans to step down at the end of the season. In response, the board decides to give the greatest manager in Arsenal's history one final shot at glory. After everything he's done for the club, Wenger is rewarded with a massive £100 million transfer budget to bring in whoever he needs to finally reclaim the Premier League title. With Petr Cech already through the door, Wenger gets to work immediately. His top priority is fixing the injury-prone squad. With the likes of Theo Walcott, Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain, Aaron Ramsey, and Danny Welbeck constantly in and out of the physio room, Wenger knows he needs reinforcements up front and out wide. In real life, these injuries force players like Joel Campbell to play key roles throughout the season. At one point, the injury crisis was so bad that even left-back Kieran Gibbs was used on the wing, where he actually scored an equalizer in the North London derby. To avoid this type of makeshift squad, Wenger headed back to Barcelona, the same club he signed Alexis Sanchez from a year ago. This time he had his new transfer war chest, as he outbidded both Manchester United and Chelsea to bring in Pedro for £30 million. Some might mock the signing and call Arsenal Barcelona light, but that mattered very little to Arsene Wenger. Pedro fit perfectly into Arsenal's style of play. With Sanchez and Pedro on the wings and Ozil pulling the strings to the middle, Arsenal's attack suddenly became one of the most dangerous in the league. Yet Wenger still needed to address the glaring issues up top. as the inconsistent Olivier Giroud was the only consistently fit striker available. In real life, the Frenchman infamously went on a 15-match goal drought during the second half of the season as Arsenal began dropping points and ultimately let the title slip away. Despite his solid 16-goal contributions across all competitions, many pointed the finger at him for Arsenal's collapse. While scapegoating him may have been a bit harsh, the truth remains that Arsenal needed more firepower up top. So, Wenger turned to Lyon forward and longtime target Alexander Lacazette to finally add some real competition to Giroud, signing the Frenchman for £38 million. Between Giroud's experience and Lacazette's potential, Wenger hoped the deal would finally give Arsenal the firepower they needed to win the league. With Lacazette through the door, Wenger felt confident in his squad. The Gunners entered the season with a renewed sense of belief in a title charge, fresh off a summer of big signings. Wenger would stick with his trusted 4-2-3-1 system, emphasizing free-flowing and attacking football. The arrival of Petr Cech brought optimism that the club's long-standing defensive frailties might finally be resolved. With the experienced duo of Laurent Koscielny and Per Mertesacker anchoring the back line, Wenger also looked to continue placing his trust in youth academy products like Hector Bellerin and Francis Coquelin. Coquelin in particular would be tasked with shielding the defense, allowing the little magician Santi Cazorla to pull the strings in the midfield. Ahead of them, Arsenal's revamped attack looked dangerous. Mesut Ozil, arguably the best playmaker in Europe, is now flanked by a world-class wing duo of Alexis Sanchez and Pedro, while Giroud would keep his starting spot for now, with Lacazette pushing him for minutes. With transfers completed and expectations high, Arsenal prepared to kick off their campaign at home against West Ham. In real life, the Gunners opened the 2015-16 season with a disastrous 2-0 loss to the Hammers. But this time, things were different. With their new signings and a squad built for a title charge, Arsenal would be looking to avoid that fate and kick off the season with a statement win. Unfortunately, the optimism didn't last long as a brilliant cross caught the defense sleeping as Enner Valencia tapped home to put West Ham in front, casting an early doubt on Arsenal's title credentials. Soon after, Nacho Monreal was clumsily brought down in the box by Kouyaté, gifting Arsenal a penalty and a lifeline. But Santi Cazorla saw his effort saved by Adrian, squandering a perfect chance to equalize and put the Gunners back into the game. Fortunately, a couple minutes later, Arsenal won another penalty, and this time Olivier Giroud stepped up, with the Frenchman blasting it home to open his account for the season and level the scores. Arsenal rode that momentum in the second half, and a typical Arsenal free-flowing move saw Santi Cazorla redeem himself with a quality finish to give Arsenal the lead. The game ended 2-1 with Arsene Wenger beginning his final season in charge with a hard-fought 3 points. Despite the opening win, Arsenal's form quickly fell off. The Gunners stumbled into a worrying 3-game winless streak, dropping points against Crystal Palace, Liverpool, and Newcastle. After 4 matches, they found themselves in 6th place, already 7 points behind Leicester City. Surprisingly, Chelsea were level at the top, a complete 180 from their disastrous real-life campaign. Wenger's side looked shaky, especially late in matches. Despite taking the lead in both the Crystal Palace and Liverpool games, Arsenal failed to close them out, conceding late equalizers in both. Wenger initially brushed off the drop points as bad luck, pointing out the quality of goals they had conceded. But a flat, uninspired performance away at St. James's Park raised real concerns. A careless tackle in the box handed Newcastle a penalty, which they converted to walk away with all 3 points. Arsenal had gone from hopeful contenders to a side already showing cracks. Wenger was beginning to wonder if he made a mistake by not reinforcing the back line in the summer, as Arsenal prepared for a crucial away trip to Stamford Bridge. Chelsea were flying high under Jose Mourinho, the man who famously dubbed Wenger a specialist in failure. Despite the heated rivalry, the Portuguese manager had long held the upper hand, but Wenger was determined to finally overcome Mourinho on his quest to end his Arsenal reign with a Premier League title. Just 25 minutes in, a well-worked move saw Hector Bellerin squeeze a shot past Thibaut Courtois to give Arsenal the shock lead. Moments later, a brilliant through ball from Aaron Ramsey found Pedro, who finished coolly against a club he nearly joined, doubling Arsenal's lead. A quick counterattack later in the game saw Pedro turn provider, setting up Giroud for a simple tap-in. Arsenal had dismantled Chelsea from start to finish, walking away with a dominant 3-0 victory. Wenger had finally earned a measure of revenge over the manager who routinely embarrassed his sides in the past, and more importantly, Arsenal gained momentum just in time for a crucial clash against Leicester City. In real life, Arsenal ran out 5-2 winners in a thrilling game against what many believed at the time was just a team punching above their weight. But that's not the case this time. Leicester sit comfortably at the top of the table and have quickly established themselves as a team to beat this season. The Foxes have been in fine form, highlighted by an emphatic 3-0 victory over Arsenal's rivals Tottenham. If Arsenal have any hope of mounting a serious title charge, they'll need to find a way past Leicester. It was a tense and cagey affair that looked to be heading towards a draw until Matthew Flamini stripped Robert Huth of the ball and launched a quick counter-attack that saw him set up his fellow countryman in Lacazette for his first goal of the campaign. Leicester's effort at an equalizer left them open at the back, which allowed Ramsey to set up Sanchez, who squeezed a shot under Schmeichel, to secure Arsenal's statement 2-0 victory over the league leaders. The victory over Leicester helped Arsenal begin to regain ground after a rocky start to the season. Next up was a big match at the Emirates against Manchester United, between two sides aiming to establish themselves in the title race. In real life, Arsenal stunned United with a blistering first half, scoring 3 times in the opening 20 minutes. And history would repeat itself as Arsenal ran through the Red Devils. United were once again overwhelmed as Arsenal cruised to a 3-0 victory. Aaron Ramsey netted a brace, while Lacazette added another goal as he began to find his feet in the Premier League. The win saw Arsenal go on a run of 7 points for the next 3 games as the Gunners finally entered themselves into the title conversation, heading into a crucial North London derby. Tottenham were struggling in 11th place, while Arsenal were keeping pace with Leicester City and Chelsea at the top of the table. This time, there'd be no Joel Campbell or Kieran Gibbs on the wings, thanks to Wenger's summer reinforcements. Despite injuries to Theo Walcott and Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain, Wenger was able to field a strong front three of Alexis Sanchez, Pedro, and Alexander Lacazette, the latter earning a starting spot after a string of impressive performances. As expected, the derby was a fiery affair, with no love lost between the two North London sides. But it was Arsenal who drew first blood, with Pedro rifling in a shot at the top of the net. Tottenham were struggling to keep up as Mesut Ozil set up Santi Cazorla to make it 2-0 before halftime. A second-half penalty from Mikel Arteta sealed a famous 3-0 victory in the North London derby, as Wenger's side continued to build momentum in his farewell season. However, unbeknownst to Wenger, Arsenal's day of reckoning had arrived. In real life, a pair of seemingly routine away matches against West Brom and Norwich marked the start of the end of their title charge. It began with the injury to Francis Coquelin, sidelining him for 2 months. Mikel Arteta, his replacement, had a nightmare performance against West Brom, conceding a foul and then losing his man for the opening goal, and scoring an own goal that sealed the defeat. To make matters worse, Arteta picked up an injury that kept him out for most of the rest of the season. Arsenal's issues worsened when Alexis Sanchez suffered a hamstring injury that sidelined him for months. The final blow came when Santi Cazorla, who had been instrumental in Arsenal's midfield, was ruled out for the rest of the season. His absence led to a drastic drop in creativity, with Ozil forced to drop deeper in the build-up, impacting Arsenal's creativity in the final third. This ultimately contributed to Giroud's goal drought, as Ozil went from 16 assists at the halfway point of the season to only recording 3 more and failing to break the all-time assist record. The lack of squad depth and firepower would eventually see Arsenal fail to catch up to Leicester. Just like in real life, Coquelin and Arteta both went down with injuries, but this time Arsenal salvaged a point thanks to Alexis Sanchez's brilliance. Unfortunately, Sanchez would still suffer a hamstring injury against Norwich, worsening the team's injury crisis. To make matters worse, Cazorla's injury completed a disastrous 2-game spell. However, Wenger's summer reinforcements kept the team afloat. Lacazette showed his worth as he danced through the box and forced a ball past the keeper to secure a crucial 3 points for the Gunners. The hobbled Gunners finished the year with 10 points from a possible 15, managing to maintain momentum despite an ongoing injury crisis. The run included comfortable wins over Aston Villa and Sunderland, while Giroud's hat-trick against Bournemouth took the Frenchman to 8 goals for the season. Yet, the stretch wasn't without setbacks. A disappointing home loss to Manchester City saw the squad to begin to run out of gas. Arsenal had taken the lead through one of the closest goal line decisions in Premier League history, with many still debating whether the ball even crossed the line. Nevertheless, City fought back and ultimately secured a 2-1 win, despite Arsenal's late push for an equalizer. Despite the loss to Manchester City, Arsenal finished the calendar year on top of the Premier League table on goal difference for the first time all season. Momentum seemed to be building as the Gunners followed up with a convincing 3-0 victory over Newcastle. Giroud continued his scoring streak, and a brilliant solo effort from Pedro served as further vindication of Wenger's summer reinforcements. But Arsenal's firepower quickly dried up. A string of disappointing draws followed, with yet another late game collapse, this time against Stoke City, who snatched a late equalizer to deny the Gunners a vital 3 points. However, it was a goalless draw against Liverpool that dominated the headlines. Early in the match, Martin Skrtel appeared to trip Giroud in the box as the Frenchman was shooting, but the appeals were waved away. Yet the true controversy came in the dying moments when Kolo Touré clearly brought down Lacazette inside the area. Despite the blatant foul, the ref waved play on, much to Arsenal's fury. Replays suggested that the referee's view had been obstructed, which only intensified the backlash. The poor run of form saw Arsenal relinquish their lead at the top of the table, with Leicester now holding a comfortable 6-point advantage. Lost in the midst of the controversy was Wenger's effort to find a replacement for the injured Santi Cazorla, with the board granting him extra funds for an emergency signing to reignite Arsenal's title charge. Wenger made what would ultimately be his final transfer as the Arsenal manager, signing Granit Xhaka for £34 million. It didn't take long for Xhaka to win over the fans. In a tense, cagey match against Sunderland, he popped up in the 76th minute to fire home a crucial winner, salvaging 3 points from what seemed to be yet another frustrating draw. A victory over Bournemouth put Arsenal in a strong position heading into a potential title decider against Leicester. In real life, Danny Welbeck's dramatic last-minute header brought Arsenal within 2 points of the Foxes, a moment many believe would turn the title race on its head. This time the stakes were even higher. A win for Arsenal would send them back to the top of the table in goal difference, while a Leicester victory would undo much of the Gunners' recent progress and create a serious separation at the top of the summit. Arsenal got off to a dream start, after a lung-busting run from Hector Bellerin carved open the Leicester defense, allowing Lacazette to tap home the opener just 8 minutes in. However, the momentum was short-lived. A rough landing saw Lacazette forced off with an injury, worsening Arsenal's already weakened team. Leicester pressed hard for an equalizer as Arsenal were pinned back deep into their own half, struggling to gain control of the game. Things got worse when Bellerin pulled up with a hamstring injury, further depleting an already thin squad. As the match wore on, Arsenal's tired legs desperately held on for a narrow lead. In the dying moments, Leicester launched one final attack, and Ulloa found himself unmarked at the back post. But with the last kick of the game, he blasted his shot off the post, letting Arsenal escape by the skin of their teeth. Despite the 1-0 scoreline, Arsenal had been thoroughly outplayed, registering just 3 shots all game. But the result was all that mattered, and they were top of the table once again. Arsenal carried their momentum into Old Trafford, where they once again rolled through Manchester United. The Gunners looked ready to storm away with the title, cruising to a commanding 3-1 victory. But just as hope began to soar, an unexpected roadblock appeared in the form of Swansea City. Former Gunner Lucas Fabianski managed to deny his old club time and time again. The match ended in a frustrating goalless draw as Arsenal failed to beat the Polish international. The result saw Leicester retake the lead in the title race. Despite Wenger's attacking reinforcements, goalless draws had severely damaged their title charge. Luckily, the return of club talisman Alexis Sanchez provided a much-needed spark. The Chilean scored a dramatic late winner in a tense North London derby, then followed up with another decisive goal in a 2-1 victory over West Brom. Arsenal were keeping pace with Leicester, clinging on the hope that the Foxes would slip up. However, yet another disappointing draw, this time away to Everton, felt like the final nail in the coffin. Any realistic hopes of a Premier League title seemed to be slipping through Wenger's fingers once again. Arsenal now sat 4 points behind Leicester, with just 7 games left to play. At this point in real life, they had already wasted their dramatic win over Leicester, by following it up with losses to Manchester United and Swansea City. Arsenal finished that campaign with 4 draws from their final 7 games, limping to second place. Now, they have 2 paths. They can roll over like they always do and surrender the league to Leicester, or they can fight with everything they have until the end of the season, hoping that Leicester drops enough points. By this time, only the board knew that Wenger planned on retiring at the end of the season. Wenger thought it best not to distract his players or build any unnecessary expectations by announcing it publicly. But with the final 7 games of his career approaching, Wenger knew that he needed to leave it all on the table. He called a private meeting with the entire squad. No press, no cameras, just a team. There, he told them the truth. His career was coming to an end. He looked around the room and told them that this was a special group, that no matter what had happened in the past, no matter the setbacks or the failures, he believed in them. And there is no greater honor that he could imagine than ending his career watching this team lift the Premier League trophy. The room fell silent. The players knew it was no longer about chasing Leicester. It was about sending Arsene Wenger out as a champion and saving the legacy of the man who had given everything for this club. Wenger's announcement lit a fire under the Arsenal squad, sparking a flawless run through April. The Gunners went unbeaten, winning 5 straight matches with an incredible 16 goals scored and just 1 conceded. The players looked determined to give their manager a farewell that he deserved. They ran through each team they faced with the kind of fluid, expansive football that had defined Wenger's era. More importantly, Arsenal stormed back into title contention. With just 2 games left to play, the stakes could not have been higher. They would visit the Etihad just 1 point behind Leicester with everything on the line. The Premier League title race was reaching its conclusion, and the clash against Manchester City could be a must-win game for Arsenal. It was a cagey affair at the Etihad, with both sides desperately chasing victory, as City were locked in a top-4 battle as Arsenal had their sights on the title. But it was Gunners who struck first. Alexis Sanchez showed brilliant control inside the box before squaring it to Aaron Ramsey, who slid in to finish. It was the Welshman's 6th and most important goal of the season, giving Arsenal the lead they so desperately needed. Rather than sit back, Arsenal pushed to kill the game off. Just after the hour mark, a defensive mix-up from City gifted the ball to Ozil, who pulled off a stunning overhead kick to make it 2-0. The German playmaker's moment of brilliance seemed to put the game out of reach, as Arsenal were now cruising to victory. Then came yet another defensive lapse from City, which sent Lacazette clean through on goal, but the Frenchman failed to convert. Arsenal would immediately come to rue the miss, as Yaya Toure surged forward on the counter-attack, carrying the ball halfway up the pitch. Then, former gunner Samir Nasri floated in a perfect back post cross for David Silva, who headed it home to bring Man City back into the game. Wenger was livid. His side looked set to cruise to a massive victory, but now they were under pressure. History threatened to repeat itself, as Bellerin missed a point-blank chance, and moments later Ramsey lost possession to Fernandinho. The Brazilian drove forward, just like Yaya Toure had done moments ago, and played in Nasri, who looked set to punish his former club once again. But Koscielny stepped up, winning the ball before launching a counterattack. He found Theo Walcott down the right wing, and the Englishman, ignoring Wenger's calls to take it to the corner, cut inside and squared it to Granit Xhaka. The Swiss midfielder struck home to finally put the game to bed. Xhaka had been vital in Arsenal's second-half resurgence, and now his goal had kept their title dreams alive. Arsenal's 3-1 victory meant the Premier League title would be decided on the final game. Heading into the final day, Arsenal sat just a single point behind Leicester. Crucially, the Gunners held the advantage on goal difference, meaning if the two sides finished level on points, it'd be Arsenal that would be crowned champions. Simply put, if Arsenal won and Leicester dropped any points, the title would return to North London. For the Foxes, the equation was simple too: win and they finished their fairy tale, with the most improbable Premier League title in history. Regardless of the outcome, it was set to be an emotional finale. After 20 years, Arsene Wenger was preparing for his final match as Arsenal manager. Hope filled the Emirates, as everyone dreamed of giving their greatest manager ever the send-off he deserved by lifting the Premier League trophy one last time. Arsenal would be hosting bottom of the league Aston Villa at the Emirates, while Leicester faced a daunting trip to Stamford Bridge to take on third-place Chelsea. Ironically, Arsene Wenger's hopes of ending his career with a league title now rested in the hands of his fiercest rival, Jose Mourinho. After all the years of snide comments and feisty battles, Wenger would now be depending on Mourinho to do him a favor and stop Leicester. With both matches taking place at the same time, the stage was set for a dramatic, unpredictable, and emotionally charged final day. Just 4 minutes in, a terrible defensive mistake from Chelsea saw Leicester get multiple clear opportunities to score in the box, with Mahrez hitting the post before Courtois finally claimed the ball. It seemed as if Chelsea would be doing no favors for Arsenal, as Leicester were all over them. On the other side of London, a brilliantly worked team goal saw Lacazette set up Sanchez for a tap-in, giving the Gunners a 1-0 lead in Wenger's final game. It was a typical Wenger goal, with multiple intricate passes carving open the opponent as Arsenal walked it into the net. More importantly, with the score still 0-0 at Stamford Bridge, Arsenal now sat atop of the live league table. The momentum was building, and soon after, Pedro slipped a pass into Lacazette, whose deflected shot fell right to Sanchez, only for the Chilean to squander a golden opportunity to double the lead. Nevertheless, Arsenal remained at the top of the table as halftime came, with the Leicester game locked at 0-0. As things stood, Chelsea were doing Arsenal a major favor, as a draw would see the Gunners crowned champions. But just 2 minutes after the restart, disaster struck for the red half of London. Cesar Azpilicueta lunged into a reckless tackle and was shown a straight red card. Down to 10 men, Chelsea looked rattled, and just 10 minutes later, N'Golo Kante ghosted into the box and blasted past Courtois. Leicester were now in front and back on top of the live table. The Foxes nearly made it too, with Chelsea struggling to keep up with the league leaders, as Chelsea captain John Terry blocked Mark Albrighton's effort. Back at the Emirates, news of Azpilicueta's red card and Kante's goal began filtering through. The atmosphere was tense, but Arsenal remained focused, dominating possession and pushing for a second goal to secure their part in the title race. However, there were still twists to come. In the 75th minute at Stamford Bridge, Chelsea were rewarded a free kick from 27 yards out. Standing over it was none other than Cesc Fabregas, former Arsenal captain and once Wenger's golden boy, now wearing the blue of Chelsea. Fabregas lifted the ball over the wall and into the net, beating Schmeichel and leveling the match at 1-1. The Emirates roared at the news. Arsenal now back at the top of the live table, thanks to a man many Gunners branded as a traitor. Leicester was stunned by the 10 men of Chelsea. Suddenly they had just 15 minutes to rescue their season. But the final dagger was yet to come. In the 90th minute, Fabregas would yet again score to put Chelsea up 2-1, seemingly putting the title out of reach for Leicester. The man molded by Wenger into a world-class midfielder, who abandoned him during his time of need, had now handed his former manager the sweetest of parting gifts. Leicester pushed forward in desperation, throwing everything at Chelsea in the dying moments, but it was just too late for them. The final whistle blew at Stamford Bridge, and Leicester's fairy tale was over. Back at the Emirates, the noise was deafening. Arsenal's 1-0 win and Chelsea's dramatic comeback meant the Gunners were Premier League champions. Celebrations immediately began, with the players overjoyed as chants of "One Arsene Wenger" rang throughout the stadium. After years of near misses and heartbreak, they had finally delivered. Per Mertesacker lifted the Premier League trophy as red and white confetti rained down over the Emirates. It was a historic moment, the first league title at their new home, and the perfect send-off for the club's greatest ever manager. It had been a long and grueling season, filled with many setbacks. At times the title seemed lost, but Wenger's men never stopped believing. Now they were champions of England. Following the game and the title celebrations, Wenger officially announced his retirement to the world. He received plaudits and respect from his peers in the wider footballing world. The board's backing and the crucial summer and January transfers had finally pushed Arsenal over the finish line. Wenger had saved his legacy. Meanwhile, Leicester City saw their fairytale Premier League triumph go up in flames on the final day of the season. It was their one and only shot, and the title slipped through their fingers. It will now forever be a what if, as one man ruined the greatest fairy tale in football history. Thanks for watching, and make sure to subscribe and stay tuned for our upcoming career mode videos. I had a lot of fun going back and revisiting a 2015-16 season to make this video. So let me know what other ideas and saves you'd like to see me do. Thanks everyone.